Well, it's good to be together, everybody. I'm Alon, Rabbi in East Tennessee, here to share with you on Fridays the mysteries of art and faith. You can also find me on Inside Timer leading meditations every week, or most weeks, Sundays at 9 in the evening, Wednesdays at 9 in the morning. It's good to be together. Uh, so if you're in the chat, just let me know what you're seeking, what you've come here for. Spiritual, religious, faith based, creativity, art questions you might have. I work with artists around the world, helping them develop spiritual and faith practices that support their work, support their arts, support their making. You can reach out to me at any of the addresses here or on Instagram or on other social media. It's good to be together. Always happy to answer questions. We'll start with a poem. This is Martha Polsethwaite called Clearing. Do not try to serve the whole world or do anything grandiose. Instead, create a clearing in the dense forest of your life and wait there patiently until the song that is yours alone to sing falls into your open cupped hands and you recognize and greet it. Only then will you know how to give yourself to the world so worthy of rescue. So I'm here every Friday to most Fridays that I can at noon Eastern time to share with you what I know of my faith tradition, to speak not to per se proselytize, but to share with you messages from my faith, my scripture, my ritual tradition, and to express what is of value to me as a creator, as a creative person, and what I think is valuable to artists. So, this week in Jewish communities around the world, we're reading from the latter chapters of the book of Genesis, the middle stories of Joseph and his saga, which some of you may or may not know is the a core text in the Quran. I always find that fascinating. I learned that a long time ago. So, if you ever read the book Blink by Malcolm Gladwell, it has a latter chapter on an artist named Kenna. I lived through the story of Kenna and Kenna's difficult time in the music business. Kenna, I think, is a Ethiopian immigrant, or actually from an Ethiopian emigre family, connected with, I believe it was Chad Hugo later, or then of the Neptunes, and wrote an incredible album, New Sacred Cow. And there was a track called Hellbent. Every Friday morning at Universal Music, we used to watch the new videos that came out. And Hellbent, if you look it up, has an incredible animated video that is, to me, deeply moving. And I remember being in that room, watching that video and holding my hands, holding my head, trying not to cry. It was so beautiful. And at the end of the video, I looked around the table and noticed that no one shared that face. No one shared that experience. And I realized we weren't going to sell that album, which is to say beauty and the dream of an artist is not always so easily realized. It's not always quality is not always met with commercial success. Like a dream, a good idea, a beautiful artwork is ephemeral and just hard to assess, and that it does not always come true quickly or predictably. This week in the Torah reading and the Hebrew Bible reading read in Jewish communities, as I mentioned, chapters 40, 41, 42 of Genesis, Pharaoh has a doubled dream, and Joseph also recalls his dream. It's a section rich with dreams, interpretation, and their meanings. Dreams, I think, are literally and figuratively the root of so much art and productivity, so much creation, so much experience. I want to talk about dreams. Dreams as a synecdoche, as a stand in for art. So, our rabbis say that the power of imagination is given by God. That dreams are akin to the power of prophecy. Imagination is literally defined as comparison or imaging, giving image to a thing. Artists give image to the voiceless, give image to an experience of that which is a deeper reality. That was his dreamlike in that it's never fully attained. It's never present in our physical world, and we draft it into this physical world. Every dream is unique and special. In the Torah reading, it said that each person dreams a dream, and each his own dream. That is the baker and the cupbearer. Everyone dreams something unique. Every artist, every creator, every human has their own vision of a world created and their own sense of what the world needs. How do we bring that into reality? How do we bring that into success? If not material success, as I told in the story of Kenna, at least artistic success, that it comes out the way we wanted it to come out, that the art arrives in a way that is meaningful, not just to us, but can be shared with the world and joined in with. So, as I mentioned, we're reading these stories of Joseph, and Joseph, as he rises through the ranks of Egyptian society, becoming the vizier of Egypt, which I think was one of the roles in the movie Aladdin. He gets new names. He is called Sofnat Paneach, which is a really weird phrase. The rabbis, the sages, biblical scholars aren't even 100% sure what that meant. It might have been Hebrew, it might have been some Egyptian term, but nonetheless, they try to understand the etymology and they come up with a few ideas. They say that it could mean the revealer of hidden things. Could mean that God speaks and one lives through that. Or it could mean that he is the creator and sustainer of life. So if Joseph received these titles, it makes sense. He was a prophet. That is a way of listening to God's speech. He revealed hidden things. He could interpret the dream. He could decipher what was mysterious. In rabbinic tradition, it's taught that he could read snakes, that an early form of divination was reading the presence of snakes. And that he is called this creator and sustainer of life, probably as a reference to Joseph's role in preserving Egypt during famine. So that's also the art process, right? To dig into what is hidden, to ascertain and disentangle what is hard to describe, what is hard to make sense of, and to live. And again, the second translation is that God speaks, he lives. We live in a liminal space, in what the Celts called a thin space between heaven and earth, spaces of mystery. And we live with God, who God is just the word we use to quote Pete Holmes and the road manager of AC/DC. God is just the name we give the blanket to give shape, that we put over mystery to give it shape. So Joseph lives in that mystery. Artists live in that mystery. And if we're fortunate, if the art gets out of us even to 10 people, it sustains. Artists have a role in sustaining the world, especially in these dark and fragmented and insane times, that artists can bring out nuance and care and continuity to a world that is struggling, to a world that is fracturing. We have a possibility of being sustainers of the world. How? How do we reach into artistic selves? How do we divine and understand what's there and what needs to come out? Another title Joseph receives is Avrech, another word that our sages weren't so clear about it. To me, it always sounded like that's just what they called him out. It was like a salutation. There comes the emperor, right? There were Roman experiences like that. But our sages break that word into two parts, Av and Rech, which Av is father and Rech or Rach is tender. So that Rabbi Yehuda, in one of the rabbinic teachings of probably the 2nd or 5th century, says that Joseph is a father in wisdom, but tender in years. So he was very young and very pretty. And in a lot of stories, he had beautiful hair and curled hair and would spend a lot of time, as does my 7th grader, in the bathroom adjusting his hair. So he was tender in years, but wise and elder in wisdom. That's the work of the artist too. Right? Robert Frost's best poetry came in his 50s. He had to accumulate enough wisdom, but still remain tender, right? Still remain soft and supple and aware and open to realization and open to change. At any point, if you're on chat, please do interrupt me with questions. I welcome conversation. This is structured as a sermon, but not a sermon in front of a crowd, but a talk that you can join in and ask questions and interrupt at any moment to That's the nature of Jewish teaching is to be peppered with questions. So jump in. How do we remain unjaded? Elder in years, but young, elder in wisdom, but young in tenderness. How do we reveal and live and sustain life as artists? It's not easy. It's really just a paradox, honestly. I won't have an answer for you. To be in touch with oneself, to be in touch with one's spirit and soul and emotion isn't isn't a simple thing. Joseph, when he confronts his brothers in this story, he steps into an anteroom because he has to weep. And there's even stories about God doing the same thing. Um, he steps aside to cry, but he is still in touch with his feelings and emotions, but then can gather himself and return to speak to his brothers. The artist's work is to always remain in touch, but then to translate that to control the flow of emotion and reality and the supernatural and the fantasy and the dream and place it in a canvas or a song or a sculpture or a book to gather and bound what can be unbounded feelings and tenderness and to recognize the power of tears, literal and figurative, to recognize that the only way to access God, as I discovered, is through sobbing. Understanding what is divine, understanding what is holy and transcends us and is deep, buried within us, requires weeping to get it out. And Joseph too suffered in prison and then profited and then became empowered and profited from it when he became vizier, when he became Safanat Paner, when he became Avrech, when he became a ruler. Right? We have to go through and understand our trials and tribulations to make something of them. We have to listen. We can't avoid, to quote Robert Frost, the only way out is through. Or I think the way out is always through. The best way out is always through. And with a dream, as with an artist, hearing is interpreting. Right? That the work of attending to something is itself listening and comprehending. Oh, my text message came through. Sorry, I thought I had some way to turn that off. My bad. Let me turn that off. So, so I was saying that listening and comprehending is a kind of interpretation. That listening leads to interpretation, but to do all that requires attention, not just listening, but full devotion, awareness of the art that is within us and art that is exterior to us. I heard of a new exercise. I'm reading Geddy Lee's book on Geddy Lee's memoir, the singer and bassist of the band Rush. Um, I don't recommend the book. It's kind of dull, but unless you're a massive Rush fan as I am. And apparently he and Neil Peart, the drummer, had an off-duty contest they would do. They would go to a museum or a gallery after a show or between shows, and they would decide which painting in this room do I want to take home. If I could take home one painting in this gallery, one painting in this wing of the museum, which one would it be and why? And I thought about how much attention that would require, right? We so often walk through museums and spend apparently the actual number is 10 to 30 seconds, even in front of the Mona Lisa. Apparently in the Louvre, there's just this long line and people just traipse past the Mona Lisa, this major work of historic significance and creative significance. So attention is hard. And then as artists, we do it again and again. You can't just dream once, teaches the Torah. You have to dream it twice for it to become assured. And I want to say that in telling our artistic and creative story, we don't just do it once or twice. We do it again and again and refine our vision and refine our product and refine our process. And that makes us, and I want to stress this to all of you who struggle with art making, why and how we do it. And am I truly an artist? You matter. You matter to society. Art matters. Art saves lives. Music has kept me alive. Psalms have kept me alive. Poetry has informed the way I behave. Joseph becomes the ruler of Egypt. There's this great line. It's Genesis chapter 41 towards the end where they say to him, they kind of by acclaim make him ruler of the country. They said, you can interpret dreams. Why don't you run the country? Right? Which sounds so ridiculous. Sounds very ridiculous, but I like it too. That sort of visionary capacity is what really matters, right? If you can perceive something we can't perceive, interpret, attend to, listen to, if you are tender but wise, if you live and sustain and reveal, you have a social power, a social meaning, a social station that is absolutely and unequivocally necessary now more than ever. The rabbinic tradition teaches that a king's dream embraces the whole world. Dream big, dream broadly, dream enough to capture more than your vision. Dream for the world. Thanks for listening. Thanks for participating. Thanks for showing up. Um, I will try to make these a regular thing in the new year. I'm doing it both on Instagram and YouTube Live, so you can join me through either medium. And I'll give these little talks and invite your questions. And if anyone's live now and wants to ask a question, including why do I have this filter on myself? I don't know. I didn't do it on purpose. I must have hit a button when I went live. But I'm a lone rabbi in East Tennessee. I work with artists. I invite you to ask me questions, DM me, connect with me through my website and through other possibilities. If you are an artist who needs spiritual support, that's something I offer one on one. If you're an arts organization that needs creative intervention and creativity consulting, let me know. I'm here to share what I know and love and what I care about, which is the links between art and spirituality, faith and meaning. Um, Thanks for showing up and thanks for being together. I'm on Insight Timer Sunday evenings at 9, Wednesday mornings at 9, leading meditation. And in the new year, I'll be here most Fridays at noon. Bye now.